Today, we are going to be going over the backstory of a lot of people's favorite Hashira. And at first, he was my favorite as well. And that is the water Hashira, Tomioka Giyu. So going all the way back to when Giyu was a boy, his older sister was scheduled to get married the next day when something horrible happened the day before. His sister was being attacked by a demon, but as she ran away with little Giyu, she hid him away to save his life by sacrificing her own. Giyu tried to convince people his sister was killed by a demon. Meanwhile, nobody believed him, thinking there was something mentally wrong with him. So then he was sent off to live with relatives, but he decided to escape off into the mountains where he almost died, but was saved by his future teacher, Urodaki. Not too long after that, Tomioka becomes Urodaki's apprentice to train to become a demon slayer, and this was around 13 years old for Tomioka. This is also where he met his future best friend, Sabito. They both end up becoming friends quickly because of their similar backgrounds, situations, and age. Did you know that Giyu actually doesn't think of himself as the current water Hashira? I know you're probably questioning, like, what? Because isn't he the current water Hashira? Yes, he is, but there is a bit of a story to it. So let's get into it. So during the Hashira training arc, which is a little halfway through Demon Slayer as a series. So it's right before the last two main arcs. There is the Hashira training arc, which is right after the Swordsmith village arc. So one day at Giyu's home, Tanjiro does visit him, and he does explain to Tanjiro that he was disappointed he didn't continue water breathing to become the new water Hashira, and that the Demon Slayer Corps doesn't currently have one. Tanjiro responded by apologizing, and that Urodaki told him that it's not uncommon for a Demon Slayer to change breathing styles and give birth to a new one. Perfect example is Mitsuri. She was training to be a Flame Hashira, but then developed her own breathing style, which is love breathing. By Giyu saying there is no current water Hashira, left Tanjiro baffled. Tanjiro questioned Giyu by saying, "No water Hashira, well, what about you?" Giyu responds by saying, "Don't say that. There's currently no water Hashira, and that someone must fill that role." Tanjiro didn't understand what Tomioka was saying and asks what he means by that. As Tomioka responds, "I'm not the water Hashira." Tanjiro is really confused by this, so then we get a flashback of Kagaya talking to Tanjiro. He asks him if he will go talk to Giyu for him, since at this point in time, Kagaya was too sick to even get out of bed and do it himself. Kagaya says that Giyu is always turning his back and goes it alone. He wants Tanjiro to try to help Giyu face forward. Kagaya said that he must be persistent with Giyu, so he asked Tanjiro if he would speak with Giyu, and Tanjiro agreed. Fast forwarding back to the Giyu and Tanjiro conversation, after the things Tomioka said to Tanjiro, it made him want to know why he doesn't see himself as the current water Hashira. So good old Tanjiro asked why. Giyu wouldn't explain and would not tell Tanjiro. So what Tanjiro did is he bothered him and bugged him for 4 days straight with why? What happened? Why? What happened? Until Giyu finally cracked and gave in to Tanjiro with an explanation. So now, let's go back into time with Tomioka here. So, back when Tomioka was 13 and in final selection with his friend Sabito, Tomioka struggled to fight his first and only demon, getting injured so badly and going in and out of consciousness. Sabito took notice and saved his life by entrusting Giyu to another boy in final selection. Meanwhile, Sabito, the badass that he was at 13 years old, destroyed every single demon on the mountain, making it look like an easy pass for him. After he saved Giyu, he hears another boy crying and screaming for help. Sabito then runs off to help this other boy until he ran into the hand demon, which we all know what happened to him. This was the demon Tanjiro struggled with a little bit during his final selection. The hand demon did also tell Tanjiro how he killed Sabito. So after Giyu was saved by his best friend in final selection, he then wakes up, finding out that he passed. But where's Sabito? Finding out his best friend was killed on the mountain, but Giyu passed and Sabito did not. Sabito didn't even survive. Meanwhile, he was the main boy in final selection, destroying every demon on the mountain. But as Giyu looks at this, what did Giyu himself do? Get injured? Pass out and almost died? Not even slaying one demon in the process. This weighed extremely heavy on Tomioka's shoulders, and will follow him to where we are currently at in the story in the anime, because obviously the manga is finished. So as time goes by, Giyu eventually works his way up to become the current Water Hashira, which is what we see in the anime and manga. But Giyu doesn't think he is worthy of being a Hashira or a demon slayer in general. Giyu believes he never passed final selection, all because he couldn't even kill one demon and got injured instantly fighting the first demon he encountered. He had to be saved by Sabito. Tomioka doesn't feel like he can stand shoulder to shoulder with the other Hashira, and that he's different from them and does not deserve a place in the Demon Slayer Corps. He always isolates himself from the rest of the Hashira, as we do see. Giyu also said that he will never get the Demon Slayer mark, but he knew Sabito might have. He said don't bother with him to Tanjiro anymore because it's just a waste of time. Talk about being a little too hard on yourself. This guy was way too hard on himself. So now we go back to Tanjiro, we see his thoughts, and he says, I bet Giyu wishes that he died instead of Sabito, and that he understands so well that it hurts. Knowing that someone died in your place, it tears you up from the inside out. When you have or had someone so close and important to you that you wish you have died and taken their place instead. Tanjiro then goes back and remembers how Sabito and Makomo helped him prepare for final selection and how he admired him for saving everyone during Giyu and Sabito's final selection. And if Sabito lived, he would have became an amazing swordsman, which I know he would have. If Sabito was still alive, then he would 100% be a Hashira right now. So Tanjiro can relate again with Giyu by looking back at what Rengoku did for him, Nezuko, Inosuke, Zenitsu, and all the lives on the Mugen train. How Rengoku put his life on the line to save theirs, saying that if Tanjiro himself died instead of Rengoku, that Rengoku could have become even stronger and possibly defeat Muzan. So Tanjiro relates very well to the situation that Giyu has himself in currently at this moment. But as Tanjiro's thinking all of this, he didn't know how to respond to Giyu after Giyu told him everything. He didn't want to offend or criticize him, but he did have one question he wanted to ask him, and that is, don't you want to make use of the gift Sabito gave you? This left Giyu shocked as he stopped walking. A flashback of someone slapping him hits him. Pun intended, I guess? And it was Sabito. He then says to Giyu, don't you ever say you had wished you died instead. If you do, then we are through, and I won't be your friend. Sabito continues by saying, your sister was going to get married the next day, but yet she protected and hid you from a demon and nobody else. So don't disrespect her death like that, which he did have a point. In his mind, Tomioka then apologizes to his sister and Sabito for being immature. Tanjiro sees Giyu looking more depressed from his question, and Tanjiro thinks, oh no, was I too mean to him? He already seemed like he was pretty depressed. Did I just make it worse? So Tanjiro quickly thinks of something to rectify the situation, and he thinks to himself, I know, an eating contest. Always an eating contest in anime. As Giyu turns around to respond to Tanjiro, but before he could, Tanjiro recommends an eating contest. And then the next panel, they are both having an eating contest. So, the words of Tanjiro did help Tomioka out of his slump of depression and feeling pity for himself. I love Tanjiro. He's such a positive influence throughout the series, which is one of my favorite traits about his character. Let me know some of your favorite traits about Tanjiro, which I know that is probably a lot of people's favorite trait about him. But here are some fun factaroos about Tomioka Giyu. So he did create his own water-breathing form, which is the 11th form, Dead Calm, which is badass as hell. Also, his favorite food is salmon with radishes. And his birthday is also on February 8th. Now, have you ever wondered why Giyu's robe is split down the middle and two-toned? The reason for the one side being maroon is for his sister, and the other half with the green and yellow pattern is for Sabito, which explains the two-tone look. It's for the two people he respected the most in his life and the two people who had also saved his life when he was younger. Which, that's a really interesting fact if you didn't know that about his robe. That's the reason why it has that two-toned look. But anyway, that is the video of the backstory of Tomioka Giyu, which he is a lot of people's favorite Hashira, period, and he does have an interesting backstory. The guy was just so hard on himself, and way too hard on himself, and I know a lot of people can also relate to that. When you fail at something, it does weigh heavy on some people. Some people can just forget about it and move on with it, but a lot of people do take it to heart, and they are just way too hard on themselves if they screw something up or fail at something. So this is something 100% relatable with Giyu's past here. He feels like he does not deserve to be in the Demon Slayer Corps, and especially be the Water Hashira, because he technically did not properly pass. Which, I understand where he's coming from. I would probably be the same way, but Tanjiro did have a point. Those two people who were very important to his life did give him the gift of life. So as Tanjiro says that, it kind of flipped a switch in Tomioka's head, like, what am I doing? Why am I just loathing in my self-pity? Let me stop this. So he does apologize to them for being immature and just loathing in that self-pity. So it is a really interesting backstory, and I like how it did get turned around in a Hashira arc, and that's pretty much thanks to Tanjiro. So, like I said, that is the video of Tomioka Giyu's backstory. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts and opinions about his backstory in the comments below. Hope you enjoyed the video, and don't forget, I will catch you on the next episode of Daredevil 19, and I will also see you guys later.